Hello, 5th grade. This is Brian Hash again, and it's time for Choices Unlimited. Last week, if you'll remember, we talked about self-esteem and decision-making. And today we're going to talk about something that can have an effect on our self-esteem and ways that we can respond to it. Today we're going to talk about pressure. Have you ever heard anyone say, "Boy, I'm sure feeling a lot of pressure right now"? Well, we can think about pressure as any force that acts on us to try to get us to think or feel or act a certain way. And pressure can be both positive and negative. And if we want to think about pressure, if any of you have ever been in a swimming pool, or especially a wave pool or the ocean, or even been outside on a real windy day, and you can feel how the wind or the water kind of pushes against you to get you to move in a certain direction, that's what pressure is in our life. We can think about it that way. That an outside or a force that works on us to try to get us to think or feel or act a certain way. So there are different kinds of pressure. And the first one is called personal pressure. And that's a pressure that we put on ourselves. It's the kind of thing that if we feel like really good grades are very important, and so we're going to put a lot of pressure on ourselves to study and work hard and do our homework. If we feel like our appearance is very important to us, then we may put a lot of pressure on ourselves to dress a certain way or do our hair a certain way and things like that. So that's personal pressure. Now, the second kind of pressure is what we call family pressure. And family pressure can be pressure that's put on us by members of our family. Sounds pretty self-explanatory. It's the kind of pressure like family traditions. If our dad and aunts and uncles or uncles have always played football, and our older siblings have played football, then it's kind of a tradition or a piece of family pressure that we might also be athletic or play sports, or specifically football. Things like going to church. That could be a family tradition that we do. We go to the same church, and so there's family pressure to think and act in that way. The next kind of pressure is called media pressure, and we're going to talk about this specifically. Our whole lesson next week is on media pressure, so I'm just going to touch on it briefly. But media pressure is the way that different sources of media act on us, push on us to try to get us to think or feel or act a certain way, to buy a certain product or to think a certain way about a product or about a situation. The next kind of pressure is called peer pressure. And peer pressure is usually the hardest to deal with because it comes from our friends. Okay? If we get in a fight with our brother and sister and they just say, "Well, I'm not going to be your friend, I'm not going to be your brother or sister anymore," we know that's really not going to happen because those are lifetime relationships. But sometimes when our friends try to get us to do something that maybe we don't want to do, they really could stop being our friends. So there's a lot at stake with peer pressure. So there are types of peer pressure, and we're going to go through these. The first type of peer pressure is kind of just a friendly, joking kind of peer pressure. Someone that says, "Well, if you were really my friend, you would do this thing," whatever it is that they're trying to get you to do. There's a kind of peer pressure that's kind of teasing. So someone challenging you and saying, "Oh, well, are you a chicken? Are you afraid to do this? Or do you not have the guts to do whatever it is they're trying to get you to do?" The next kind of peer pressure is what we call tempting. And that's when someone tries to entice you with something you might want to get you to do what they want you to do. It's kind of like a transaction. So they might say, "Well, I'll give you blank, whatever, if you will do this thing that I want you to do, or you'll think this certain way that I want you to think." And then the last kind of peer pressure is what we call heavy pressure. And that is what we would think of as threatening, or getting someone threatening physical violence, or threatening to get physical with you, bullying. Those are the kinds of things we associate with that heavy pressure. Someone really applying perhaps even physical pressure to get you to think or act or feel a certain way. So we've talked about pressure and what that is, and kind of maybe even what that looks like in our life. And so there are some ways that we can say no to that kind of pressure. And we're going to go through those kind of like we went through the types of peer pressure. So if someone is pressuring us in a real friendly way, and they're saying, well, if you were my friend, you would really do this for me, then we can just kind of say no thanks. It's not like they're saying there is a high stakes to saying yes or no. We could also say, well, if you were really my friend, you wouldn't be asking me to do this thing that you know that I don't want to do. We can give a reason or an excuse for why we don't want to do whatever it is that they might be trying to get us to do, or the way they want us to think or feel about something. If someone's teasing us and saying that, oh, well, are you a chicken, or do you not have the guts, or trying to goad us into doing something or thinking or feeling something, we can continue to say no. That's always kind of our first response, but then we can also just walk away from that and say, because if someone's trying to get us to do something we don't want to do, then their opinion of whether or not we're a chicken or don't have the guts to do whatever it is, it doesn't matter as much, because they're just trying to pressure us into something that we don't want to do. Now, the tempting, that can get harder too, because they're saying, well, I have this thing that you want, or is desirable, and I'll give it to you if you'll do something that I want you to do. If you'll think or act or feel in a certain way that I want, then I'm going to give you this thing that you really desire. And those can be hard to turn down. So in those situations, we can change the subject. We can say, well, I don't really want that, especially not if it means doing whatever it is that you're trying to get me to do. Or we can change the subject and move on to something else completely, and avoid the conversation about whatever it is they're trying to get us to do. Also, we can avoid the situation or avoid that person. So if let's, for example, a classmate was trying to get us to let them cheat off of us during a test. Well, we can try to make sure that we're just not sitting close to them or not around them, or we avoid talking to them or seeing them before the test. Now, also, we could go and tell the teacher that they're trying to get us to let them cheat, and the teacher will do something about that as well. So then finally, that last pressure, that heavy pressure, that maybe even threatening something physical, well, one of the things that we need to do is probably reach out for help. That would be a response that we would have to someone that's bullying us or threatening us or physically trying to get us to do something, is we would reach out. And we can reach out to our friends, we can reach out to teachers or family members or those kinds of folks and enlist their help in resisting this kind of pressure. One of the other ways that we stand up to pressure is something that we call assertiveness. And assertiveness is where we're standing up for our rights while at the same time respecting the rights of other people. So to be assertive is to be able to stand up for ourselves, to be confident in who we are and what we think and how we feel, and be able to be confident in that and do what it is we've already decided we will, and resisting the pressure that might be coming from another source to do that. While at the same time, we're respecting the rights of other people to think or feel or act their own way. We're not trying to impose our will on them as well. So some things that we can do to be assertive. Some body language has a lot to do with being assertive and how we present ourselves. If we walk around or encounter a situation with our head down, not making eye contact, speaking very softly, then that's a very passive kind of body language that might tell someone that was trying to influence us or pressure us to do something that we would be easily influenced or easily pressured. Now there's the other end of the spectrum. If we've got a very stern look on our face and our fists are clenched and we've got an aggressive stance, well then that's an aggressive body language. And that might indicate to someone that we're about to apply pressure to them, maybe even physical pressure to them. And so we don't want that either. But an assertive body language is that we have our head up, that we make eye contact, that our voice is clear and strong, and that lets people know that we're confident in who we are and what we believe, and so we're not going to be easily pressured into doing something that we wouldn't want to do. The other thing that we want to talk about in assertiveness is our language. The language that we use needs to be clear and confident and definite. If we say, well, I don't know, I don't think so, that might indicate to another person that we're on the fence about whatever it is that we think or feel, or the way that we're going to act. So that if we can speak with confidence and we use confident words, definite words, yes, no, not maybe, not well, whatever, but being confident in the way we speak, that's another way we indicate our assertiveness. But at the same time, respecting their rights and not trying to impose our will or our thoughts onto this other person. Let's talk about the bottom line. Assertiveness, pressure, is something that pushes on us, that tries to get us to think or feel or act in a certain way. And there are lots of different types of pressure that can be applied to us. And one of the ways that we can resist that pressure is by being assertive, by knowing what we think or feel or the way we're going to act and communicating that in a confident way. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your time and attention today. I'll see you next week.